Hello everybody, thank you for joining me once again. Today we're going to be doing the companion lesson / analysis for the Hold Back the Rain performance. There is so much to go over, it's overwhelming to be honest. And it's not so much the playing, it's not the harmonic analysis because that is really easy. Hopefully, as I'm speaking now, I'm going to be overlaying the video of a songbook that I have that I've had forever, and as you can hopefully see, the chords are actually very simple. The song revolves around going from E major to A major, and it is worth pointing out that Andy, as usual, has a really cool riff. It goes like this. So the only thing harmonically kind of crazy there, I suppose, is that last chord. Oh, let me switch to piano camera. Here we go. All right, so let me do that again. So that last chord, you could argue that's an A9 because we're doing that B on top. Otherwise, you're just going E, the major third there, and then you're just going up, but keeping this E from the previous chord, so E is in both E major and A major. And it kind of creates this like sus feeling, like if you were going to go. But we're not going to do that because that has a totally different flavor, so it's just. That follows along the general Duran theme of kind of being a little obscure with what exactly the chord is. And yeah, then we end on the which is pretty much A9. So that is the verse. Then the chorus is just D to E, C to G, all major. And that pickup on beats 3 and 4 if you want to do that, G to F sharp. And that leads you back down to the D. You could say the chorus is in G, but that it starts on the 5th because we're going to play that C natural right there. And that's really it. The bridge is essentially just kind of a jam in E, and then we're right back into just the previous patterns. Yeah, so that's pretty much it as far as harmonic analysis. Now, what might take a while here before we get to bass is a kind of evolution of this song, and it's something that has confused me for such a long time. In a nutshell, there are so many versions of this song, and I'm not just talking about, okay, the UK mix and then the special mixes that were done for the US. Of course, we have all the extended remixes, but even putting all that aside, what has been put out as the song Hold Back the Rain on a Rio album has changed. And case in point, if you really want to go crazy, if you really want to geek out, just head over to Discogs, and let me actually back out a level here. There are so many versions of the Rio album. I mean, it is crazy. Look at that. Show all 277 versions. Now that's across all formats. But even if you just whittle it down to CD, 88. We're not going to get into all that. So let's just start with the very first entry, which is kind of fascinating because it says Textured Sleeve. So that was released in the UK in 1982. And what I want to focus on here is, look at the time. A5, Hold Back the Rain, 3:59. Now, I'm going to call that the original UK version, okay? And this is one of the rare ones from the label Harvest, and it's a Canadian release in 82. This is still on vinyl. And what I find interesting about this one is that even though it was released in 82, it's being billed as a reissue. And look at 632. So they put a long version, what I would consider a long version, here on this Canadian release album. So already we can see there, wait, what's going on there? And before we get to the version of the song that I focused on when I did the performance, let's look at one more rarity. Check this out. Duran Duran Rio CD album, Mispress reissue. That was released in '86. And look at these songs. Obviously it's a classical piece. And if you scroll down, it says mispressed recording of Alexander Scriabin. Don't know how to say that really, apologies. Released with the same matrix. So does that mean that if you bought this album and played it, it would be this classical piece? Or is it just mislabeled? It says mispressed recording, so I'm guessing the music is actually different. And I just happened to scroll further down, and this is also interesting. They point out here, I don't know why, I haven't seen this on any other ones that I've looked at, but they point out here little extra tidbits of info about the track. So track 5, Hold Back the Rain, it says 19th of March 82. I'm assuming those are the dates that they were recorded. But wow, look at track 6, New Religion, recorded August 27th of 1980. Yeah. And then The Chauffeur, 1978. So is it, well, I don't know, the dates are confusing. Anyway, okay. So let's go back to the Hold Back the Rain madness. And so yeah, I've already established here that even amongst official releases of the album Rio, they differ in length. So let's consider the 3:59, so nearly 4 minutes, the original one, right, the UK release. Now, if we go to what you'll find if you go to YouTube Music, for example, and you look at this 2001 Remaster, this has the version that I would say, well, it's 3:52, as you can say. So I would say that's the most succinct, tight version. It's, well, I would argue, it's a personal opinion, of course, that after many tries, they arrived at this version. And I'll show you just 2 big differences in between this version and this version. Now, although it says 2009 Remaster, we have to keep in mind that this Remaster, the collector's edition, was, I think, kind of like a be-all, end-all. They were trying to, package Rio into this, like, okay, this grand production along with all these demos and all of that, right? In this version, it seems like they went back to that original release because the time more or less matches. There are a couple seconds tagged onto it, so it's at 4:01 instead of 3:59. But anyway, okay, so big differences. As a bass player, what I noticed the most is the pluck-in sound. And so here, I have my notes here. So listen to the pluck-in, or the slaps if we want to call them that, here. Okay, this is the, what I'm calling the final succinct version. Okay, it's really sharp, right? It's more like a dual pickup instrument, like, not, doesn't sound like a jazz bass, but let's just say it's more along those lines. Whereas in this version, which I'm assuming has been done to be faithful to the original release, listen to the plucks here. That sounds like Area SB1000, a dark, woodsy sound. Now, just for a second, let's listen to it again, because I think what may have been done here is they layered it. So the original SB1000 dark sound is there, and it was overdubbed with something else to give it a little more kick. See if we can hear that. Maybe, maybe not. It's just really hard to tell if it was doubled. It was doubled pretty well. Okay, the other big difference, and we're going to go backwards this time. So in the original version, right over here about 207, listen to the bridge. It is different. It's a bit spacier, it's a bit more drawn out, whereas this version that it eventually arrived at being is much more defined, much punchier, it's tighter. Let's listen to that. I think it's around here. So there you go. Those are two big differences. Also, and we'll go over this a little more when I do bass, those plucks, the slaps if you will, there's more of them in the later version. Okay, so now if we move over to this version, now this is what I would consider, well, I don't have to consider it, it says right here, US Remix. But it's much longer, see, so it's more in tune with that Canadian reissue of the LP. If you listen to this one, there's something that makes me believe that as a kid, I always listened to this version. And I don't know if it's because, yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles in US, or my album happened to have this long version, but this is why I know I listened to this version. Because right around a minute and 30 seconds, you hear this awesome sound. I love that, and I do miss that. So if that 3-minute 52 version had this sound in it, I think I would be happy as a clam. I would say, like, okay, you guys arrived at the ultimate version. That's been cut out of the 352 version. And if we then continue our path down into this 2009 collector's edition, we get, really it's the last song, and it says Hold Back the Rain, alternate remix. And what's cool about this one is that those alternate plucks are so prominent. Listen. I mean, they are in your face. So it's real easy to figure out what's going on there because you can really hear it. Now, before I actually get a bass on me, let me say this. It was really difficult to record this one because, as a matter of fact, I kept thinking, oh my goodness, I'd rather be playing Rio right now, because even though that song doesn't stop and you're barely coming up for air, it is way more challenging for me to play this song because I kind of chose to do it in a very difficult way, which is to play the fingerstyle parts and then kind of hide this in my hand and then bring it out like a magician for those first two choruses and then, slip it back into my hand. So how does John manage to do this? Well, I don't really know, but I'll point out two performances here. So here we go to the famous New Year's show here, Palladium, New York Palladium, and watch what he does, or rather try to listen to what he does, because you can't really see him. The camera's not panned his way. Okay, we can't see him, but I think he's just playing 4 on the floor. So that's one way of doing it. And another trick he does here is that he only does that for the first chorus. And when he jumps to the second chorus, he goes to the octaves, whereas in the recording, you would normally reserve that for the third chorus and, those final ones going out. Now, you could say he kind of graduated into getting back into playing the 16ths, but this time what he's doing here in this 2017 performance, and pretty much in any performance I've seen him do of this later, he just plays it with the pick the whole time, and he's really good at it. He's even doing the plucking parts with the pick. Of course, it doesn't have that sharp slapping sound, but it still sounds pretty groovy. Listen. So he's playing with the pick the whole way through. So that takes, you know, these whole acrobatics out of the picture because you're just playing with the pick the whole time. So let's look at my notes and let's see if I left anything out. Differences in lengths, pluck and sound differences, the different bridges, the sound in the version I'm used to hearing. We went over that other one, and we went over John's techniques for dealing with the 16th notes in the choruses. All right, so now it's bass time. All right, now we're doing bass time. So again, we're going back to the 2001 remaster, or really any version that gives you the 3-minute 52 or so version. And so let's start at the top. At the top, okay, well, before I start talking about that, this song is very similar to Rio in terms of us doing ghost notes and doing, you know, that galloping feel. So the gonka gonka gonk, right? Just like in Rio when we're going. But now we're doing a little bit more of a controlled bonka bonka bonk, right? So more of a funky sort of disco feel, not so, you know, ragtag and frantic as Rio. So just bonka donka donk, donka donka donk. And as usual, if you can't do that, then simplify it. Bum, bum, bum. Just really zero in on those 16ths. You know, I always say just feel or think about those 16ths, right? Bonka, bonka, bonk. If you have that feel in your head, it will reflect into your fingers with enough practice eventually anyway. So the first go around, it does this like kind of around the world kind of a thing, because you're going to go E to the A and then to the top E and then back to the A. Listen for that right in the beginning. It goes. Now, there's a bit of building the line here, and you'll see what I mean in a sec. But for now, we settle into just laying into the verses. Now, there is a lick that you do pretty consistently. Let's see if it's coming up here. Yep, right there. So when you're ready to go back into like the downbeat or like to beat one of one of the verses, you do G, F sharp, G. So let's say we were doing the beginning, we were up top here. When I was learning it as a kid, it felt, or it sounded like it went chromatic to me, like maybe I just thought that was more clever, you know, my untrained ear, I just thought, oh, that's the way it should go, right? But it doesn't, it goes. And that's pretty much how it'll go until the next pickup. Now, when I say the pickup, in this version here, it's quite unique. Let's see if I can zero in on it. In this first one, it goes B, C, D. And I think, honestly, that maybe it used to go to a chorus there, or John might have been thinking, oh, time to go to the chorus. But it wasn't going to do that. It was going to go back into like this pre-verse B thing where you're just going to be doing the riff and starting on this high note. So I think he probably figured it out midway and said, oh, B, C, oh, crap, I got to get to that E. So let's go B, C, D. Because every other time, and this will happen later, when we go into the chorus, it's going to be chromatic, B, C, C sharp. And on a related note, it usually goes C sharp, D, D sharp. So it's just this first one. I'm just pointing it out. We're just geeking out here. So let's see what happens after that. We get into the plugin in this version. So you could definitely do that in one go. In my performance video, I just kind of wanted to make a point that it's a much different sound than an SB1000, and I just wanted to play the Elite, give it some screen time. So I did those as overdubs, but it's not that difficult. So again, right there. Okay, it's just G to A. And then you're back to the. And now we're into the chorus. Assuming you've found a way to get the pick in your hand, or you've decided to do it one way or the other, let's just go over the notes. So as I outlined in the first section, it's just D to E to C to G. And of course we're doing this bouncing rhythm, the sort of planet Earth kind of a thing, where we're going, and I'm going to do it slowly, like. So notice that I'm bouncing off that A, and that's another one of John's classic techniques, especially during the early days. It's just to bounce off that A. So not here though, just go C to the G, and then you're going to hit that D for one beat before, and then beats 3 and 4 it's going to be on the G and the G sharp. So then the second time you're going to basically repeat the line, but you're going to do a chromatic run up to the low G and then go back up to the top G like this. And that can be a little tricky. Now you can also do it with your fingers if you have the dexterity, and you could even do it with this Bernard Edwards sort of chucking technique, but nothing's really going to sound like the pick. But the chucking is kind of like, actually I'm not an expert in the Bernard chucking, but I kind of do my own version of it where I just pretend that I have a pick, but I'm just using my fingernail. I wasn't even playing the right notes, but let's try that again. So you can tell that it's more chunky, right? It's not as legato, and especially when you get to the G, you kind of naturally are muting here, so it's just not the same aggressive. The pick is what really brings that out. So if you can get good with the pick, I suggest doing it with the pick. Now let's hear how John gets out of that. And here is what I was alluding to earlier, where it builds. It gets a little more complicated, just a little bit. Listen. So instead of just going, you're gonna go. You're just gonna go down to that D, and then when you're on the A, you're gonna go down to that G. So just whole steps down. Then when you go back into the verse, let's see what happens, because I think it goes back to the simple way. No, you're going to keep doing that, so the build continues. And then from there, oh, that's worth noting there. So before the second chorus, we get to do a nice wow. So then we do another chorus, and then we're going to be into the bridge. And from my notes, that's right about over here. And the bridge is pretty easy, a little bit of a variation here. So we hang on that, and then goes. Listen for that again. So that's another thing there. He doesn't go to the. He just goes. So the important thing is that you just land on that D. I'm doing it with the pick. I don't know why. It sounds pretty good like that though, right? Anyway. And there are little variations there because sometimes he just stays on the bottom note, but they're not really important. Let's just listen to how he gets out of that. So to get out of there, it's another one of these. And then we're into a chorus, but now we get into the octaves. So really they're just octaves, and just kind of the way I learned was to do my octaves with my index and not the next finger, but the ring finger. So that slide from the E down to the C, that just kind of happens naturally. It sounds cool. You just naturally go from. So let's listen to how he ends that. Yeah, so. Probably just hang on that G. So that's what I would do. And of course you can embellish it a little bit here and there, but always stay solid, of course, stay groovy. And then after that, there's yet one more variation, and it starts doing another motif in the plucking. Oh, right there, he did go. So he's just mixing it up. So there is that alternate plucking. And the way I would do that is just, well, the notes are B to D and then B to D to E. But for the B, you're going to hammer on. So. And if we listen to that crazy version, it should be loud and clear. Let's listen. Holy crap, I think I had it wrong. Let's listen. Yeah, I had it wrong. So it's G to A on the hammer-on. And then I'm assuming it's going to go. Let's listen. Oh, and it's different there too. It's totally different. Actually, I think the second time he does do it the way I thought it went. Yeah, so it's easier than I thought. So it's G to A to D, and then it's A to B to E. So just on you. And then after that, all right, because we're going to see there. So it's really just following a nice pattern where it's just like the hammer-on to the note and then the fourth above it. So the whole pattern should be wow. I couldn't really hear it when I was learning it, when I was learning this, you know, or the 3-minute 52 version. So I you know, I just did my best. Maybe I rushed through it. That's why you shouldn't rush through things. Or maybe this is yet another version of these plucks. So let's take it from the top of this pluck section. No, it's the same. It's the same here. So I was playing it wrong in the performance vid last week. Shame on me. See, we're all learning. All right, let's just fast forward here. There is one more motif, you could say. And that's that, the sort of double timey. So it's pretty basic. You're just following the notes, D to E to C to G. Let's see how he does the C though. So yeah, I remember this now. The first time he goes low. It's hard to play that clean. You really want to have your mute in place. Ah, there's like a mystery pluck there. Let's see if we can hear it. Right there, bang. So right there, then the second time he goes back up to that version of it, and then he goes back to the octaves, I believe. Yeah, and after that, it's just octaves. Let's see if it ends on that. Yeah. So, hope you enjoyed that Odyssey. I definitely learned a thing or two, especially that plucking part that I wasn't exactly doing correctly for the performance. So we're all here to learn. We're all learning new things every day, relearning, breaking old habits, and hope you enjoyed that. See you again soon. Bye-bye.